Please introduce yourself.
My name's Guy Davidson. I'm
And
the coding.
What are you doing?
I'm the coding manager at Creative Assembly.
So the Creative Assembly is well known from Total War series.
Absolutely.
Could you tell a little bit about those games for someone who doesn't know what is?
Okay, well the Total War series is it's an old franchise. Our first game was Shogun, released at the beginning of 2000, and we've been making battle strategy games ever since. They're real-time strategy games, but it's with a campaign element. So you'll build a map, and you'll build resources, and you'll build armies, and then you'll use those armies to fight against other players. So it's like Risk, but much, much more so.
How hard is to program those games?
Very. It's very hard. It's certainly the hardest programming challenge I've come across. The real trouble is that we need the best AI programmers and the best graphics programmers to just run the whole thing, because there's a lot of work to do. It's a complicated game. It's really demanding. Our players are clever people, so it has to be it has to give them the challenge that they want.
So how many programmers are working on Total War?
On Total War, we've got a shade over 50 programmers. I think we're up to 55 now.
It is enough?
Well, we can always use more. We can always use more people on the graphics team. We can always use more people on the AI teams. We have battle AI as well as campaign AI. We're always looking for good people. We have a number of products in development, so people tend to work on whatever's most important at the time. In general, I would say you'd look at 18 months of programming time per person per game.
It's a huge amount of work.
It is. It's a lot of work.
Okay, I think you know about the Polish games.
Yes.
We have
Dying Light. I love Dying Light. I really did.
What do you think? How it is possible in the Poland? So we have so many great games, so many great studios. From your point of view, as a person from the UK.
I think Poland's got plenty of promise, plenty of future. I think, as I say, Dying Light. I love Dying Light, and that was clearly built by local people. And speaking to Polish programmers, during this conference, I can see everyone is just as keen as any other programmer to make it big, to write the interesting games. I think there's plenty of promise and plenty of future here. And if you don't think that, then come and work for me.
So what do you think about the Code Europe?
I love it. It's great. I enjoyed Krakow. I love Krakow. It's my first time in Poland. It's just absolutely gorgeous. But the audiences were really very welcoming, very warm. They really wanted to hear what I had to say. They were very gracious and very grateful. And the organization's been great as well, actually. I've been to some conferences where I felt, where am I meant to be? But this has been really quite smooth.
And what do you think about the audience? Do you have any strange question, for example, or very interesting question?
No, not especially. The audience have been satisfied with what I've said. Although, to be honest, my first lecture, I overran a little. There wasn't much time for Q&A, so this time round I'm hoping I'll leave some time for people to ask questions.
Okay, but going back to your beginnings, how do you start to code?
How did I start?
Yeah.
I was at school, so this was 36 years ago. I started programming on an Acorn Atom, and I learnt Atom Basic, and then I got a ZX81, which was a British computer, and then a ZX Spectrum, and I just learnt languages. I learnt Atom Basic and Sinclair Basic and Z80 and 6502 and 68,000. I just learnt languages. I just played around. The thing was, back then, everyone was playing arcade games, but they had to pay money each time they wanted to play. And it seemed like a much better idea to try and make your own. And that's what drove many of us in the 80s to learn programming, was just to make games, because there was a scarcity,
Would it be tempting to recreate those games from 80s in using today's technology?
Absolutely, yes it would. In fact, over the past year I've been talking about writing games in very modern C++. Most of my speeches have been about that sort of thing. Next year I'm going to be talking about actually writing games using being able to write simple games quickly and easily. There are many game engines out there, but a lot of them are very heavyweight. I want to create a really lightweight game engine that would be good for teaching and good for people wanting to start programming at any age. Not just at university, but I started when I was 12. So I think anyone can start programming. If they can watch this video, they can start programming.
What do you think is how to really start making games in programming way. What is, from your point of view, the best way? Learning the C++, or maybe using some engine like Unity or something like that?
Certainly a very quick start is Unity and C#. You can get results very quickly and very easily. And you can get quite satisfactory results. But if you want to work in AAA companies such as mine, and there are many of them, then you really do need C++. C++ is getting easier to learn, but it's still quite a steep learning curve. But with persistence, there are lots of resources out there. If you go to...
you have to learn pointers.
Yes, you have to learn pointers. There's no getting away from that. You need to know about indirection. And really, knowing about indirection will help you in every programming language. It teaches you about optimization and about the kind of things that take time to execute. If you go to isocpp.org, you'll get everything you need to start learning C++. I'd recommend that. But they'll tell you about pointers.
What kind of technologies are you using in Creative Assembly?
We use our own stuff. We've been working on our code since, Creative Assembly was formed in 1987, and we've always used our own code, unless we have to. So DirectX, for example, we have to use DirectX, but we don't use any, rendering engine. We might use little bits of third-party software. We use Wise sound software, but almost all of it is our own stuff. We like that. We've fallen foul of other people's third-party software before, and ultimately, we have all the tools in place that we need to make our games ourselves.
Do you think it's harder to create game on different platforms?
Well,
you are just making the PC versions.
Well, we did port it. We ported Total War Attila to Linux and to OS X. I actually work on the low-level libraries, so I work on all the things that interface with the operating system. So the job of porting it to Linux and OS X wasn't too hard. I had help, obviously. It wasn't just me. But the real problem was writing the OpenGL renderer. That's soaked up a lot of time, that I think was probably the big problem, because there just aren't so many customers. If you're going to spend lots and lots of man hours writing a product, you want lots of people to buy it, and I don't believe there were that many OS X and Linux customers. So it can be done. We write everything on top of a platform that we can port, but we need customers, really.
Best game that you played lately?
Best game that I played lately, XCOM 2. I've just got 100% achievements on XCOM 2. It took me a long time, 375 hours, but I absolutely love it. It's a really good game. It's another, it's a turn-based strategy game rather than a real-time one.
But recreated on different platforms.
It uses the Unreal Engine, I believe, which does aid portability very much so.
And the most crappiest game that you played lately?
I don't play crappy games.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for coming to Code Europe.
Thank you very much, you're welcome.
Thanks.